Welcome to today's virtual lunch. Matt Homann, please, why don't you start? You introduce yourself. And then typically what we do is we try to give everyone a few words to introduce themselves, let's say. But I'm excited for this discussion because I anticipate it being very practical. And I'm really grateful for the fact that you too decided to stand in front of a brick wall. So please.
Ari, I see lots of familiar faces. So hello to those I know, to those I don't. I'm Matt Homann. I run a company called Filament. We design, create, facilitate creative meetings, conferences, retreats, offsites. I'm a recovering lawyer, so I started this whole thing doing a thing called LexThink almost 18 years ago now in Chicago. And do a little bit of our work still is in law practice. Most of it is outside of law practice. And I'm in what we're calling now our lemonade stand. Because when you do in-person meetings and no one meets in person, things change pretty quickly. So we built another offshoot of our company called Practically In Person, and this is our virtual meeting studio. So I'm here in our office. I've been the only one here for almost 5 weeks, but it's a chance for us to facilitate and still, for me, stand up and feel like I'm facilitating a meeting. I've got two big screen TVs in front of me, a Google Jamboard over here to my left. You see that weird little camera stretch at the very top? I'm using an owl camera. So if I were to walk around the room, it follows me around the room as it hears my voice. And that's what we do. So we do everything from strategy to process design, a lot of culture and innovation stuff. And again, mostly outside of law, although all the problems are the same. Lawyers just figure out they have them later than everybody else.
Are you getting the sense that people are becoming more conscious of their appearance and being more professional, or are they letting it go somehow and just saying, let me be my authentic self? You know, I won't show up a mess, but I don't have to be perfect.
It's a great question. I think oddly enough, being 100% virtual has made us more human in the sense that we're seeing more of one another. And when I mean more of one another, like let your imagination run wild. I know what kind of pets you have. I know your child is crazy. I know your dog goes apeshit when the mailman brings the mail. I know that you're standing in front of a big stack of toilet paper in Brett's world. And so one of the things that I think is fascinating is that when you are in video, my wife's company did this when they moved to all virtual sales meetings, 4 years ago. The CEO got on, the woman got on, their meetings at 10 o'clock. She got on as if she'd just gotten out of bed. Her hair was a mess. She had no makeup. Her cat was on her lap and said, if I can be this to you, you have no excuse not to join. And so there's engagement. The other thing, though, and it's really an interesting challenge, and I've been doing this, and in fact, I've got it done now. I'm going to do it. I'll turn it back on again here in a second. But I've been hiding my self-view in my camera. If you go up to the little 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner of your own image, when you're engaging with someone, you're also trying to pay attention to how you're looking. It doubles the cognitive load on your brain. It's even harder when you've got to look at 20 people at once. But pulling your camera away helps remove some of that self-judgment, because I can't see myself. Now, presumably, I pretend I'm standing in front of you so I'm not picking my nose. So there are some risks there. But if you're going to be on video tonight, I think you have way more permission to look real than you might have in the past.
Well, oddly, you look kind of like me. You're standing against a brick wall. You're wearing a blue sweater. You have like a bluish shirt. It's a little creepy, to be honest. It's a little weird.
You stole it from me, Ari. You stole it.
Just for the record, we did not coordinate, but I think that's right. Yeah, that's a really funny thing.
One thing, Ari, I'm going to throw this as a tip that we use when we group strangers together, is we ask everyone to go and copy their LinkedIn profile link, right? That has the LinkedIn/IN/ whatever your last name is. And you can throw it in the chat. And then when you save the chat, it gives you a shortcut to finding everybody who's on the call in a super simple way than trying to track it down in real time. I'll send mine out right now.
What a great suggestion. Awesome, Matt. This is great. Okay, super. So what happens now is, we've spent 6 weeks now on the virtual lunch talking about, where we are, what's changing, what will last, what will go back to whatever, I try not to use I don't even try to use the word normal anymore. You know, it's, you
Right.
know, for me, the hashtag is not normal, and that will be perpetual. The question is, what do people do? I mean, you were very quick to create Practically in Person, which is, you know, not surprising to someone who's known you for a while, but what do you think happens? Where do we go?
I think there's a couple of things, and I've been, you spend a lot of time thinking in trends. We have a 20,000 square foot facility in downtown St. Louis, and we're not going to have people here till the end of the year. Like, it's going to be 2021 before our next in-person event. So if you've got an in-person event before then, it's not going to happen. And it may happen. It may be legal for it to happen. It may be safe for it to happen, but will people send their people on airplanes to go attend it? Right? That's where the real iffiness comes. And so we've made this, and not just we as far as our business, but everyone has made this pivot to now we're all virtual. And Zoom exhaustion is a real thing. And this is not an ideal setup, right? Like, just as an example, and not to pick on anyone in the group, but there are things you can do with body language and cues that you can't do as a facilitator when there's 20 boxes on the screen, right? If someone is taking longer to do something than I want them to, I can't slowly lean over to them and kind of pat them on the shoulder, or I can't shift attention in the room to someone who might be marginalized or not getting the kind of attention, or someone who's talking too much, right? The things that you can do physically in a room facilitating meetings can't happen virtually. And so also the fact that the moment you do a meeting, pay attention to your ability to pay attention to your ability to pay attention to the meetings you have in the end of the day versus the beginning. If you've been on Zoom all day long, you're a shell of your former self in the afternoon than you are in the morning. And so the three kind of things that I've been thinking about. One is that the meetings have to be shorter and distributed over longer periods of time. Strategy session that we might do over 2 or 3 days at Filament is probably now 3 weeks of 90-minute meetings separated by 3 to 5 days each, ideally in the morning. The second thing is that we're going to see this exhaustion of trying to magically replace every in-person engagement with the exact same thing online. The people are going to say it doesn't work anymore. And so we're going to see a huge rise in the asynchronous collaboration that is what we try to do in person now, right? So if Joy or Candy and I wanted to have a conversation about something, I think Candy, I can't tell if that's your name or if that's the name of your business. I apologize. If we wanted to have a conversation, do we try and have it in this setting, or do we say your job is is to build something out, get on a phone call, do an email, use an asynchronous collaboration tool, and do the work and then come back? And the third trend, and I think this has been something that is should have been happening for the last 15 years and just really hasn't, is that the purpose of going to a conference for information delivery is dead. I've never understood why people continue to go to conferences for people to tell them something when all that information is available online, whether it's a TED Talk, a YouTube video, white papers, etc. And so this idea of sitting shoulder to shoulder, facing the same direction, watching someone read their slides off a screen as the primary reason I get on an airplane to go somewhere, I think is gone. And I think where we're going to see is the information delivery is going to happen before and after events. The insight discovery, for the reason people go, is going to have to happen. That's going to be the predominant reason for it. And I think events are going to get dramatically smaller as a result.
I love it. Matt, just fantastic. I hope that other people call you professionally, because your advice is just incredible. And I feel really lucky that you joined us. And I feel lucky, as I do every day, that everyone joined. So
I want to thank everyone. And I'm going to leave with one final thought, is that the next meeting you have, instead of trying to think about how do I turn this in-person meeting into a virtual meeting, think about the things you could only do in a virtual meeting and how to take advantage of those. That's where that was our kind of big epiphany about 6 weeks ago, was, ooh, if everyone's virtual, look at all the things we could do, which is way, way better than, oh, I've got this in-person meeting and how do I translate it? You're speaking a completely different language with different needs and necessities. So lean in on that versus just trying to turn one into the other. And it might turn out that it didn't need to be a meeting after all.
Wow. Matt Homann, everybody. Matt Homann. I love it. Awesome. Matt Homann.
Matt.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
See you soon.
Bye.
Thank you. It was great.